Okay, Lawrence and Lori are back on air, and we're going to do part 2 of simulation, Mandela, and flat Earth explained. And we're just going to continue the conversation kind of where we left off, only we're going to kind of switch topics or direction a little bit. We're going to start talking about manifestations and what is reality and how this all can work inside the construct. Why do people see UFOs? Other people don't see them. Why do people see demons and ghosts and things like that? Other people don't see them. We'll probably tell a few stories and anecdotes about some adventures and experiences of our own and very close friends who we trust to tell us the truth about what they saw or what happened to them. So we're not really trying to get too off into the paranormal, but the paranormal kind of does blend in with the supernatural. And the only difference is who's doing it. Are we doing it for and by our own energy for ourselves, or is God at work, the Holy Spirit, or demons, Satan, the Matrix, the sub-matrix, the government-controlled, mind-controlled, whatever, sub-matrix? There's really no explanations for all of this, but we're going to kind of just talk it out and see how we kind of explain it to ourselves. So welcome back, Lawrence.
Yeah. This is the giant's finger, in case anybody's not seen it. This is what I'm found, which I sincerely believe is a giant's finger. That's it's not the whole finger, it's just a joint of the finger. If you look at that, there's these little indentations here, which would be the blood vessels, and there's a line going along here, which would be the fingernail, and the bit on the end here is the fleshy bit that goes beyond the fingernail, to the end of to your fingertip, the bit that you chopped off, Laurie, maybe a bit more. So, it weighs about 40 pounds, not kilograms. And I found this within a few minutes of actually thinking about it, and I'm going back there next week, so I might see what else I find on that beach. But no, I mean, I sell essential oils as my little business, and that's a 10 ml bottle, okay, and I buy them by the pallet. Not that I get through many pallets, because the pallet holds 27,000 bottles. And they're all sealed, it's all factory sealed, and the order's obviously going to be bang spot on. Anyway, when I sell my oils, if they spend so many dollars, I give them a free or 2 free oils. And I've got a huge stash, or did have a huge stash of 27,000 bottles in the cellar, and they were getting a bit low, so I thought I'm going to change my offer and give them 1 bottle, half the size of this instead of 2 bottles, but of a more expensive oil. So that's your 5 ml bottle, that's your 10 ml bottle. So you can see the difference in size. But I only buy a few of these. I usually buy 400 at a time, and I was getting low. So when I get these, I just, slap the little shrink wrap. I just slash it and tip it into a big plastic drawer where the 200 ml bottles go. I don't bother storing them, because I'll be using them straight away. Anyway, so I'm thinking I need to get some of these 5 ml bottles, because I'm running short. So I went down to the cellar, not to get the 5 ml bottles, because I haven't got any in the cellar. I went down to get one of my 10 ml with the 27. All these 27,000 bottles, I've had to carry them down the stairs. Weigh about a ton in weight of glass. Anyway, so I goes down to get some 10 ml bottles for what I was working on at the time. And when I got down there, what did I find? But 2 cases, 2 cases, 200 engineers down it, of the 5 ml bottles, which sort of appeared out of nowhere. And obviously they're lighter. So, when I brought all these in, I didn't see any 5 ml bottles. I wanted 2, and 2 appeared. I wanted 2 pack. I think there's 198 in each pack. They're like this. That's the 10 mil size. So you get 198, and the 5 mil. It's the same width and what have you, but they're not as deep. So that came out of nowhere, and I thought, no, you know, how did that happen? Because I had only just been thinking about it, you know, a few minutes earlier, and I went down and I thought, no, I just don't believe this. Where have these bottles come from? You know, it's like somebody can change anything they like, and it's almost as though some of us have got some angel. I think the big matrix, whatever we want to call it, the big matrix, it's so big. There may well be a team of angels or whatever working on it, and some may be looking at individual, you know, manifesting individual thoughts into reality. Well, that's all I can think about that, because I can't explain it. And the other thing, I don't know what people listening now make of this, but I can lie in bed, and it's pitch black. So ordinarily, pitch black, you can't see anything. Now I can just sit there some nights and I'm just looking up, and I've got a full color movie. Well, not a film. You know, I see things, but they're in full color. It might be a scene in the park where, you know, a couple walking through the park, or somebody pushing a pram or walking the dog through the car, and I'm seeing this in full color. I'm seeing the green grass, the trees, the people, and all the colors. And it's just coming out of nowhere. I'm just watching it. So I can't really explain that. But, you know, and obviously if I shut my eyes, you can virtually envisage anything you like in terms of colors. It's weird, but I'm doing it with my eyes open, so I'm still, you know, I'm not under any influence or anything. And I think at certain times of the day, I think it's probably you know, sometime around midnight or whatever. I think you get a heightened sense of something, you know, a heightened sixth sense, and that, because that's the time of day when I saw these two, what I can describe as unidentified objects. They weren't flying, they were on the road, and I'd stopped my car on the second occasion and drove at about 15 miles an hour for about 4 miles on the earlier occasion. The one that was on the road, I'd stopped my car, I was going to turn around, probably told you this last week, and I had to go around all the back roads to get home. I thought, what the hell is this doing here? And as I put the car into reverse, the thing just, like it vanished in a puff of smoke. You know, and I've seen a UFO in the Canary Islands, same colour, a bright yellow in the sky, but I only saw it for maybe a couple of seconds. So I've seen stuff, and you know, I think this matrix is a big thing. And but what concerns me about it is, you know, if it was the devil that was doing it, then he could change everybody's thoughts to fulfill his end, couldn't he? So for that reason, I don't think the devil's able to go and change people's memories. It's got to be somebody else who's doing it, you know, by powers of deduction. So if Satan could do it, then it could beat God. He could get all of you, could change your thoughts. So you didn't believe in Jesus and stuff like that. He could change everybody's. He could turn everybody into a Satanist, couldn't he? He can change your program. You just wake up tomorrow and everybody's a Satanist. So the devil can't change your thoughts. It has to be God or the creator, you know, this intelligent design. Only they can reprogram your thoughts. So there we have it. It's God. It's got to be God that's doing all this. So what is God's purpose? You said before, you know, who's behind it? It has to be God for that reason alone. Thoughts are being changed, knowledge is being changed, and your memories of the past are being changed. So only God can do that.
Well,
try and argue against that, Laurie. I'm sure you will.
I really probably wouldn't argue against that, because I have related the similar situations before to God or the Holy Spirit or angels at work when you pray, for example. I can't hardly believe that anybody in in their life could go all the way through without believing in the supernatural in one degree or another. I can't even imagine being an atheist or an agnostic about how the world works and whether it's, created or whatever. I could see somebody being an agnostic and believing in a matrix construct kind of concept before they believed in a singular God or even gods, because of, there's too many things not to notice. There's too many things not to, to ignore if otherwise. And so does that mean that I expect everyone to be a Christian or a God, God of the Bible believer? No. There's too many religions, too many culture biases, too many mythologies to think that everyone would or could believe in the same thing. But there's always been the supernatural. This isn't new. It's always described as different things based on the culture and the times and the level of, what we call technology today. That depending on whether you lived in biblical times or you lived, 150 years ago or right now, there are too many anomalies, paranormal, that they've never been able to explain. So they try to make up excuses or reasons or whatever, like you finding what looks like a fingertip on the beach. Okay, a giant's fingertip. Well, a lot of people see things, humans are supposed to look for patterns. Humans are supposed to, be able to recognize this looks like that. We were talking earlier about where's Waldo. You don't really have that in the UK, but in the United States, in America, and Western countries mostly, there's a thing called a little character called Waldo, and where's Waldo is a game you play. It was based on a little book. I believe it was actually originated in what's called highlights, which were little magazines or books that were in doctors and dentists' office when I was a kid. I think they probably still around today, only I don't know. But Waldo was a little character. It had a little hat on and a little red and white striped shirt, and pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I haven't seen it in a while, blue pants. And the idea was to find Waldo in a mass scene of people and characters, and maybe they're on the beach, maybe, they're in the park, and there's just people, characters everywhere. It's all cartoonish. And you had to try to find Waldo in that. Well, I happen to be one of those people who does well at pattern recognition. And, I could usually find Waldo within seconds. Other people could stare at the picture for an hour and maybe not be able to find Waldo, especially if you're young. And so the reason why I bring that up is each of us are coded or designed to look for patterns, and it's part of actually human survival. You're supposed to be able to recognize danger. Something doesn't fit in this picture. Should I be in fear? And so I've never seen a UFO. I've looked at the sky. I look at the sky all the time, day and night. I mean, I look for stars and planets and where the sun is and cloud formations and where the weather's coming from and so on. And I've never seen any manifest. Is that my fault? Is that something I lack that other people have? But I have seen things disappear. I have seen ghosts, or what is normally by human explanation called a ghost, spirit, movement, whatever. Um, I've had ghosts, literally spirits, play tricks on me. Are they angels? Are they demons? Are they, dead humans? Are they spirit? What are they? I don't know. Don't even know how to describe or define it. But say, for example, a very clear story in my mind is I was working in a very old building one time. I was making a loft apartment in the second floor of an old retail building I used to own. And I would go up and work, in stretches of time when I had it, and then go back to doing my real job in the other times. And I had a habit, because I lose my tools, scatter them all over the place. If I'm working on something with a screwdriver over here and just leave it and go off and do something else, if I don't carry it with me or put them all together in a pile when I'm done, then I spend the first half hour of the next time I'm going to go work looking for all my tools. So I got used to, and I'm talking about major demolition. And so I would gather all my tools, clean up my mess, and I would put the tools in a certain spot together. Well, I would come back maybe the next day and some tools were missing. They weren't there. And my recollection, I know I put the hammer and the screwdriver and the whatever in this spot together. So I'd go looking and I'd find the screwdriver over here and the hammer over there. And I'm like, ask, has somebody been up here moving my stuff around? What's going on? Put it back. No one else was working there. So I finally realized something is moving my tools, my stuff. So I'm going to talk to it and I'm going to tell it to cut it out because it's annoying. So I just spoke to the room. It's a big open 100-foot long by 18-foot wide building, loft, open. I just start talking. All right, spirit, ghost, whatever you are, quit moving my crap around because it's annoying. Put it back, leave it where I left it. And it continued to happen. So then I got, okay, this is one of those kind of like, I don't know what they call them, poltergeists. Maybe it's pulling tricks on me and it thinks it's funny. So I'm going to tell it. It's not funny anymore. Okay. It's not even curious. Just quit doing it. And it stopped. And I proceeded to, continue working there, got it all finished, made it into this very cool loft apartment, moved in to live there and was there for a while and started seeing anomalies, ghosts, spirits, fuzzy something over there. And sometimes I would go to sleep at night and I would take my shoes off, my slippers that I wore around the house, and I would place them. I had a platform bed. I would place them toes facing out so I could just wake up and slip my feet into them. And I'd wake up the next morning and they'd be right there, but they'd be toes facing in. And I knew I didn't leave them that way. So I'm thinking, this ghost is playing around with me, this spirit. So I called it up and I said, like talking to the room, cut it out. It's not funny. You're making me a wreck with moving my stuff and moving my shoes and so on. And finally, one night, in the middle of the night, I woke up, sat bolt upright in the bed. This is probably 6 months, 7, 8 months since I lived there. Sat right upright in the bed, wide awake. Something woke me up. The back door to the loft is standing wide open. Now it's a big steel door with a steel lock on it. And there's cold air blowing from the back door from outside. It's summertime. It's not cold outside. And I just said out loud to God, the universe, and everything, the ghost just left and it's letting me know. So right about that time, I got up, I go close the door. It's not cold outside. I'm standing right there in it. And and I felt the presence gone and I never saw it again. No more jokes, no more playing around, no more moved stuff, gone. So everybody can tell some kind of a story like that. And what was that doing that? And, people see things and they disappear. That it's either supernatural power working with inside the construct in a real way, meaning there's some energy doing things in here, or these are coded events, they're performances for you, for your experience. And somebody else may never see it, may never believe you when you tell it, but it was as real to me as any other thing I do from the beginning of my day to the end of my day. Brushing my teeth, driving my car. It was as real as any of those things. So I don't have any way other to explain it than it has to be A or B. It has to be supernatural energy manifesting things inside this realm, or all of it is a virtual reality simulated, whatever many combination of words you want to put together that we use in modern day vernacular. It's got to be one or the other. So before I started looking into simulation theory, actually before I ever saw the movie The Matrix, there were other virtual reality type movies, but that one was the most impactful probably for me and most other people that saw it. When I saw that, I completely related to it as this is not science fiction. This is an explanation of something.
I've got a question for you, Laurie. You'll have a good think about this one before you answer, because it's quite an interesting question, and I think you'll like it. Although you might not think of the answer right now, you might think about it and tell me tomorrow. But is it possible, in your opinion, to have a non-simulated world without time?
Okay, let's see. Is it possible to have a non-simulated world without time? I would have to say that time as we know it, time as we measure it, because time is a measured mathematical equation. Seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, years, months. I mean, you can go on and on. How many increments we've broken it into or divided it into. I know that I watch, I've never done one of those VR simulation games. They've got them so advanced now that it's incredible. You move, you've got gloves on, you walk on a little platform thing that kind of is like a little circular, what do you call that thing? Treadmill. You've got the full-on goggles, headgear. They've got them now that actually hook in, nodes to your skull cap looking thing with all of the nodes to your brain that can simulate to you sound, touch, smell, all of that.
So
you would lose track of time in there. Track of time. Okay. That's the operative part. But I look at it like this, Lawrence. Every single day after you wake up, time doesn't pass while you're sleeping because you're not conscious of it, right? When you wake up, you went to sleep at a certain time and you wake up, you went to bed at 10 and you wake up at 6. You slept 8 hours. You don't remember the 8 hours, right? So every day you wake up and you start a new day. Did yesterday actually exist? Did it really happen the way you remember it? Or is everything you remember about everything that happened before this moment right here part of the code, part of your memory? So, no, I think time doesn't exist except for man's expectation of it.
So going back to the question then, in a non-simulated world, so imagine that we were, what you would think to be normal flesh and blood and not a very good simulated.
Yeah, exactly what I thought every day before about 3 years ago. Yeah.
Could that existence go ahead without time, without the construct of time?
No.
Okay, well, I agree with that. I mean, when you think about these people that have near-death experiences, there's lots of them who say that during that time when when they can come out and look down on their own body and stuff like that, they see their entire life, and it's not linear. It's their entire life is in front of them. So when you have a near-death experience, you're actually moving out of linear time into somewhere else. And then when they get the meat suit back again, you go back into linear time. So basically, time is simulated. So in a construct, you could have time. I'm not sure you could have no time in a construct, because can you imagine living without time? So you knew everything about anything, and there isn't a tomorrow, because there can never be a tomorrow if there's no time, can there? There can never be
right. There wasn't a yesterday. There isn't a now.
Can you get your head around knowing everything?
Well, that's what supposedly that's what omnipresence is. That's supposed to be where God exists, in the omnipresent, meaning present in all places.
Yeah, I know, but if you,
I can't even. No, I couldn't wrap my mind around being in all places at all times. I mean, apparently that's one of the limitations that Satan does not have. He can only be in one place at one time. So he's in this construct too. And he is, he has to be manifested in real time. What does that mean about history? What does that mean about future?
There's no time. All right? There's no time. Okay. Me and you are in this new construct now. Let's imagine we're in the construct now, and there's no time. Time doesn't exist. And I ring you up and say, Laurie, I hear you're a very good interior designer. Can you come in and do a makeover on my house? And you'll say, what are you going to say? Well, I can fit you in next week. You can't say that because there's no time. So what are you going to say?
I'll say this. Close your eyes and I will manifest it for you.
Right. Well, that's what you.
Because in no time, you would be able to will it. I would think. Yeah. Because it wouldn't take any time to do it, right?
Oh, okay. I mean, so in heaven, when you're in heaven, does time exist in heaven?
I don't think so.
So if there's no time in heaven, how do you live?
I mean, otherwise, I mean, look at it this way. If there's no time, are you in a feedback loop and are you just reliving? How would you have new experiences?
Laurie, you said to me, in heaven, you get your residual self-image. You look what you want to look like. So, you're happy with what you look like. So
I think it's supposed to be roughly around 25 or 27 years old.
So you're up in heaven. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How do you function without time? I mean, because if somebody asks you to do something, it involves time, doesn't it? Yeah. Say if you're there, sat there with Jimmy, and Jimmy says, "Can you get me a cup of coffee?" Yeah, and you say, "No, I'm busy." Well, you can't be busy because.
Well, no, actually, I'd say we can get it yourself, but But no, I'm kidding. No, I would just manifest it.
Yeah, I mean it's freaky, isn't it?
Because time, constructing something takes time. I mean, look at the Bible says, and it's supposed to be literal,
Yeah.
and we don't know if 6 days on the seventh day he rested is 6 days in our time or his time. Why does it even bother if God has no time, and if God is omnipresent and is in all time? Why would they even bother to say on the first day he did this and second day he did that? And then it gives you people something to argue about. Well, did he make light before he made the sun and the moon and the stars? Because that's what it says in the Bible, let there be light. And then on the fourth day, so light, obviously the light they were talking about that God created is a separate light than the sun, the moon, and the stars. Or otherwise it would have just said he made the sun, the moon, and the stars as lights.
How did God count what was a day? Because a day is
Well,
measured
there
by
you go. Is a day 1,000 years, a million years, a day, 24 hours? What is it? So
yeah.
these manifestations that people see, ghosts,
No,
spirits,
right.
stuff like
No,
that. What?
yeah, no. I mean, because when people say, if you've got a question to ask God, I'd say, well, who created you? And people always say, yeah, but where God lives, time does not exist. So how can it exist when he's creating something? If he's measuring the time it takes to make something, then there must have been days before in the past when God was created. It can only be omnipresent and everything in the absence of time.
Well, he was here before we were. I mean, according to the Bible, the scholars say, God was the Word, and the Word was with God, and
You
Jesus
can't have
existed, and Satan and the angels exist. All this stuff existed
yeah, but
outside this realm.
if time doesn't exist, then the word before is taken out of your vocabulary, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Before and after don't exist.
I mean, does God use the word before? I
I don't
mean,
know.
obviously, God didn't physically himself write the Bible. Supposedly, it is the inspired word of God. He visited the word via the Holy Spirit on the people that wrote the books. Okay.
Right.
So they're
Okay.
books and they
All right.
span a very long period of time. So, even that, you can just think about, the Holy Spirit visited these ideas, these words upon the people that wrote the books. Well, that's easy if you think of it as code. Okay. Just programming. Tomorrow, you're just going to wake up and you're going to know these things. It's going to come to you. Okay. And,
Yeah.
just like inventors and just like, all this other stuff. But what I was going to say a second ago, um, what happens to time in your mind when um, when some of these manifestations happen to us and we see them? Okay, like you said, you were driving down the road and this thing appeared and you were going to turn the other way. I mean, it was happening to you in real time, right?
It was, but when I saw it, maybe I was not in real time for the time that I saw it. Maybe I moved
Okay,
out.
and were you by yourself?
Yeah.
Because so much of the time these things happen and instead of like a mass thing, like um I don't know, Fatima or some of these other experiences with mass amounts of people. um Most of the time these kinds of anomalies happen to you by yourself. I mean, it is pretty rare when you go, whoa, did you see that? Are you seeing this now? And somebody else might say, no, I didn't see it. I mean, I was standing outside one night looking for the moon, knowing the moon should be over here, but it wasn't there. It wasn't a cloudy sky, and there was nothing to hide the moon. There was no tree, no clouds, no nothing. And I'm looking at where I think it should be in the sky. And I swear, I blinked my eyes. That's all the time there was. The blink of an eye. And when my eyes opened again, the moon was exactly where I thought it was supposed to be. And it wasn't there a second ago. And I have no way to explain that. And if you tell somebody the moon just appeared,
Oh,
they'd say, well, it just came out from behind a cloud. No, it didn't. There were no clouds. There were no clouds. I could see
so
all the stars. I could see everything else. So I have no way to explain why it's like my code caught up. It's like, according to history and the moon clock and everything else, the moon's supposed to be there. And when I looked there, it wasn't there, but it was like my looking at it and thinking it's not there made the code go, oh shit, we forgot the moon. And, freeze program, make her blink and put the moon in. I mean, that's what I felt like. Now she won't be able to know whether she just like how that happened, but it won't matter later. But no, it does, because I never forgot it and I never will.
yeah, I think God's talking about time, he's talking about time in this construct rather than, if he's not subject to time. So he supposedly locked Satan up for 1,000 years earth time. So if that's the case, then Satan is at present, he's an immortal living through time.
Well, he's out here now. I mean, he's, according to the timeline, he's released. He's here again.
Right. Oh, right.
And some of his demon buddies or fallen angel buddies got out too, and they're here with him.
Right.
And people would ask, well, in such a perfect world with code, and God could just, change the code or manipulate the code. If giants were such a problem back in the day and that's the reason why God flooded the earth, was to rid it of all the giants, which actually didn't happen because they came back. But why would he go to all that trouble to flood the earth to rid the giants when he could just poof, you're gone, change the code? Because let's face it, if he can change where your body organs are, and he can change where, continents are or used to be, or were all of the humans so fallible that they measured wrong and made wrong maps, and everybody made the same wrong mistake, and then suddenly everybody corrected it? And that doesn't make any sense either. So, the reason time happens, for one thing, is what did God say after the flood of how long is going to be a human lifetime? Before, apparently, they lived for hundreds of years. Methuselah, what was his, like 700?
I think they were giants as well. The biblical people would be giants, because they
was time different then? Because it even says in the Bible, in the end times, time will appear to speed up. Otherwise, we wouldn't. A lot of us wouldn't make it.
Time was still measured by the sun then. It still is now. All our time is relevant to the sun. And sure. Now. If the sun speeds up, the sun moves across the sky twice as quickly, then time will travel past twice as quickly.
Well, did you know there were two instances recorded in the Bible of the sun stopping?
Yeah, well, I'd heard of them. I don't know the detail.
For like 48 hours, 2 days or something, or longer than a day, 2 days. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and recheck that. But there was a big battle going on, and they needed the light to finish the battle. So the sun stopped, just stopped in the sky. Okay, now if anybody took that literally, and Christians do, then how could they still believe in a spinning ball after that? You can't believe in both of those, because the sun stops, the earth stopped spinning. Earth stops spinning, we all go flying off into, the ether. So you can't have it both ways. You either believe one or you believe the other. Can't believe both. Right?
Okay, Larry.
All right. So, okay, go ahead with your question, and then I have one for you.
All right. This will Okay. What I want you to imagine is now that you're in charge of the Bible study, yeah, and you've got a group of students, and I'm just going to ask you some questions. You can just say pass, and we'll move on to the next one.
Okay.
It's too messy, so I'm just going to bring these up.
Are these questions you wrote down, or are these
No,
biblical questions that are online somewhere?
I know I'm going to ask you the questions based on these things. So here we go. Luke 14:23. Yeah, miss, can you tell me? King, he says here, and the Lord said unto the servant, go into the highways. Well, I thought highways was the big roads that we drive our cars on. Were they driving cars back in those days?
No, they called roads highways, the highways and byways.
Okay. Psalm 34:2. I don't know what that one was. Just ignore that one. Okay, this one here. This is something that appears quite a lot. And we're getting all these stories. It says, if I leave all of that pertains to him by the morning light, any that pisseth against the wall. That's Samuel 25:22. And Samuel goes on about it again. Surely they're not.
What are you having a problem with pisseth? The use of the word?
Right, that any that pisseth against. So this is men pissing against the wall. I mean, what is the relevance of that, the men, and why is it always a wall? Why are men always being quoted doing that? What's the significance in biblical terms? What's the moral of that story?
Well, let's see. Hold on. Let me put you on full screen. So let's see if I can read, because I don't know out of context. 25, 22, 34. Had kept me back from hurting thee, except thou hast tasted and come to meet me. Surely there had not been left unto Nabal. I'd have to look into this one because these are different. But the use of the word pisseth, that is King James Version, obviously. Pisseth against the wall, neither of his kinfolk. I'm thinking I'm going to get back to you. I'm not going to get caught on that one. Go ahead.
Okay. And then, you know, I've heard of Noah's Ark, and I've heard the Ark of the Covenant, but I was looking at Matthew 24:36, and I know it's saying that Moses was in an ark. I'm a bit confused.
Well, Moses was actually the word ark would mean, you know, I don't know the Hebrew breakdown or the Aramaic, but it would mean a boat.
Well, Laurie, I know this bit of the Bible. I don't know it word for word, but we did this one at school, and Moses was put into a basket made out of papyrus leaves.
Mm-hmm. But it was a boat of sorts because it floated. Anything that floats in the water is, you know, she put him in the basket and put him in the river, knowing that the river was going to go by the Pharaoh's house.
Oh, and all right, but all right. I mean, they called it an ark, and then it says Noah. It doesn't say Noah, so maybe Noah changed his name by depot or something. Because Noah.
Where do you see Noe?
Noe. King James 24:36-39.
Yeah.
It said until the day that Noah entered into the ark. Well, I thought it was Noah.
Day that Noah entered into the ark. Somebody did a typo.
No, it's actually in the written Bible. It's in the King James Bible, which they don't.
Well, many people were known by different names.
But it says in 37,
I mean, they literally changed people's names. God made different people's names, you know, gave new people names.
24:36-37, it's Noah, Noah. But in 38, it becomes Noe. So how did that happen? That's in the
well, because maybe it was the mother spelled it Noe, and he became Noah when he got older. You know, the people's names changed. I'm just saying that. I'm not making excuses. I don't need to ever make excuses for the Bible. So
I know. If that's chronological, then it would go. He's gone from Noah to Noe.
Well, and perhaps known by some. But I'm going to look all of these up. I'm going to look all these up, and Jimmy, better at these kinds of things than I am. I mean,
Well,
I know the stories and the characters, but I don't know it word for word.
well, that's in the hard copy. You can check it at home. You'll find it's in the book. And then we've got this one here, King James Version, Job 21:24. His breasts are full of milk. So what's that? Why is that? You know, you're the Bible expert.
I don't know. I would never have said I'm a Bible expert, but
I'm just pretending, you know, that you are.
where did this come from? Job 21:24.
His breasts are full of milk. So that's masculine having breasts full of milk. Yeah?
Right.
So can you explain that to me?
Well, I again, it's out of context. I don't know who it's referring to. I'd have to go back and read it. I have to read everything in context like this. So
okay.
I didn't know you were going to ask me scriptural questions. I thought you were going to ask me like philosophical questions. So that's okay. But I never heard of this. There's a lot of character names in the Bible that most people don't really click into and remember, like Aholibama. I don't remember that name, ever seeing that name before.
Yeah.
And I've read Genesis multiple times, but that is I don't know. Maybe these are some of the changes that people talk about, but I've had quite a few people say that some of these, let's see, a man whose testicles are crushed or whose penis is cut off may never join the assembly of the Lord.
Yeah,
I've read that before. Yep.
Okay.
No man who's been castrated. But again, you're in Old Testament, and none of those things apply after Jesus and in the New Testament. All those laws were ignored as laws after Jesus, because that's the sin he died for.
Talking about the size of a man's genitals being the size of a donkey's.
Well, that has to be a big man. That's a giant.
Why would it be necessary to mention that in the Bible? I don't understand why they need to mention that, you know.
Because they're talking about maybe they didn't know why they were inspired to write these words. Maybe they weren't for then. Maybe they were for now or for later. You get me?
Okay.
Maybe they had no, it's kind of like, what is that thing called where it's people just sit down and spirits write for them. They don't even know what they're writing. They put a pen in their hand and their hand moves and they write. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway.
I've got a question about Jonah 2, King James Version, Laurie.
Okay.
Okay. What type of fish was it that Jonah got swallowed up by?
Well, as a child, we always heard it was a whale, Jonah and the whale. They never used to say fish.
A whale's a mammal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fish is a mammal. So, but why does it say in the Bible that it was the fish's belly? It was a whale. I always thought it was a whale.
Well, that's one of those things. I don't think it ever says whale anywhere. I think just people assumed, and that's how the story got stuck, is somebody told the story somewhere along the way, because remember this, Lawrence, back in the day, people didn't all have Bibles. So they were reliant on people, priests, ministers, holy men, to read the Bible to them and tell them what it meant. And a lot of times they didn't even actually just read it. They just described what it said, and they were the teachers. So if you never read it yourself and you only heard it, and if you tried to repeat that to someone else, they would probably think, well, I don't know of any fish large enough to swallow a man into his belly, and he'd be okay in there for several days. So it must have been something as large as a whale. Now, I don't think they were talking about like gigantic sperm whales or blue whales. Maybe they were talking about, something smaller, like an orca, or I don't know. But I agree. I always heard it as a Jonah and the whale story, not fish.
All right, man. This is my last question.
Okay.
I'm getting the impression here that whoever's orchestrating these changes to the Bible and the hard copies as well, they're putting an American slant on it because we've got the mention of a character named Cosby now, and there's also the word Bill. So you've got in the Bible you've got Bill Cosby, and you've got a holy Obama, which is obviously, like an anagram of holy Obama. Um, and there's also the word Trump there now. What's your take on these Americanisms entering into the Bible? And
Um,
have you heard of this Cosby character before?
Look at it this way, okay? What if you're looking at it forwards to backwards? How
Yeah.
about you look at it the opposite way? How about these names existed and people named their children after them? Like there are many biblical names still around today that people use to name their children, and they're naming them that because of the biblical characters. I mean, there's probably some John F. Kennedy walking around out there that's not John John. Some mother loved JFK and they named their kid that. So that to
Yeah.
me is a simple explanation for why a name would become curious after the fact, when before Obama ever was the president of the United States, nobody would have looked at that name sideways.
All right. Well, let's say next week we get JFK in the Bible.
Well,
And,
listen, there are those who admit that the Bible has changed. There are also those who admit or who will fight that and say it's impossible to change the Bible. So either way, people have old Bibles, I mean, that are hundreds of years old that say the same thing that these ones say today. And yet people say, oh, it's been changed. And it depends on the translation. Do you know how many times the Bible's been translated? Do you know how many times it's been translated from one language to another? Do you know how many languages there still are that do not have a biblical translation for that language? I mean, there still are languages out there the Bible has not been translated into.
but Laurie,
So again, you got these things with the root of the word. This comes from the Hebrew, and this comes from the Aramaic, and this comes from the Greek. And
one last question. All right. So in the Bible, I always thought that currency was probably something like the shekel. But do you know what it is now?
What?
It's English currency: pounds, shillings, and pence. That's the currency in the Bible.
Well, the King James Version is English, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now you've got pounds, shillings, and pence. And checks.
Well, listen, Lawrence, I swear, I know this bothers the crap out of you, but I could go and I want you to go sometime. I've told you this before. Go on to esword.com. Esword, like the sword.
Yeah.
Esword.com. And look up any scripture you want, and then ask it to show you all the translations of all the different translations of every Bible ever translated in any language, and read it. And if the general consensus of the message is different from translation to translation, then you have something to concern yourself with. But if the general message is the same within a word or two, then isn't that the point of the message? It's the message.
Well, I think they're just changing it so much that it'll be unrecognizable.
Well, you're balled up. No, I'm sorry. I don't want to even use that word. That's my word. You're caught up in changes. I'm not, because I don't relate to the past very much.
Yeah.
I use the past for the purpose of experience and not making the same mistakes I made before, and hoping mankind doesn't make the same mistakes they made before. Other than that, the past doesn't really mean a whole lot to me because there's so little of the past's influence in the world now, meaning technology and everything else has made a whole lot of things that happened in the past kind of moot, you know? Like,
Oh,
I don't really care that somebody used to think the earth is flat, that lived, on the side of the mountain in Greece somewhere. I don't care. It doesn't change the way I see it today, which is why it bothers me so much. It doesn't bother me, but it makes me laugh that, they say, oh, you guys, you flat earthers, you haven't advanced any farther than a goat herd on the side of a Greek mountain. You're right, because they didn't see it any differently than we did, that, as far as I can tell. But who knows? The entire landscape of Earth could have changed from back then to now, because we don't know what all the changes were. I mean, we're finding anomalies every single day that we used to believe this, or used to believe that, and now that's not even what they believed.
yeah.
All
So,
right, so
Laurie,
let me ask you something, okay?
oh,
How does finding out or considering that you live in a construct versus a created biological,
yeah.
flying through space or not, Earth, and I'm kind of talking to you and whoever's listening. So how does it alter things if this is a construct to you?
Well, that's just what I was going to ask you. So, yeah.
Like
Well,
minds think
well,
alike.
I'm 100% knowing that I'm in this now. And I'm once you know, you can not know, and you can't turn back. So I'm going out now, and I'm walking around the park, and I don't like this time of year. There's all rotting leaves everywhere, and it's all dull and dismal. It's within the construct. You can physically feel the sadness of the death and decay of the trees and things. I can feel it, and like when I go in town, I'll go, especially in the winter, I walk amongst people and I can feel the misery. Maybe I'm some kind of empath, but I can feel it. Particularly at this time of year. But then when I see my dog, I'm saying this dog's been constructed especially for me. I've impacted on what dog I've got. And then I look at anything, I'm just saying, yeah, this everything. You can say the leaves that are rotting, every blade of grass, the turd that's been flushed down the toilet, everything is code. It's everything code. Everything that is code, and everything everywhere is code. The only person that could not be code is God, because he's made everything and he's chosen to make it out of code. I mean, and that takes you back to the, if you start, people say, yeah, I believe in God, but I can't believe in simulation. Well, here's your answer. Okay. So you don't believe in evolution, you believe in creation. So if you believe in creation, you believe in intelligent design. So God made this place. Look at the size of it, 25,000 miles across. All these complex life forms, all different, all with this golden ratio in the way that people are made, and all these numbers that fit together, with math and everything. So if God could actually make things that, physically make them, then that's magic, isn't it? So if he can do that magic, then he can do the magic of making it as a construct out of data. So you don't have to physically get down there with a load of men and say, well, we need 27,000 quadrillion tons of ocean water, salted at 3%, 500 billion million tons of rocks, so much granite, so much limestone or whatever, we need some trees. So all these different species of trees, and somebody's going to come down here and plant them all. It's crazy to think if anybody could actually organize all that, then they could create it out of data. So There's your answer. If you believe in creation, then it's very hard to get away from the simulation, because to create something this complex requires such a level of magic that you could create it anyway with code. So,
Okay. Well, now think of this. You don't just have God. God is three entities. You have God, the Holy Spirit, you have Jesus, okay? The Son of God manifests on earth. Now, add to that, you've got probably as many angels in heaven outside this realm as you have people on earth. You also have entities. Now, when I say the word entity, okay, you can just replace that almost with energy being. Okay. I don't know how it was created. I don't know how it manifests, but why would they talk about them if they weren't created, if they weren't part of the story? Why would we hear about, why they call stars and planets wandering stars? Do you know? Because the stars are in a course and they stay in their courses. The wandering stars have a different course. They wander on a different path than all the rest of the stars. So we call them planets. The Bible calls them wandering stars. So fallen angels came back and forth. They came down, in, around, and then they went out, and then they went out again. And when at some point, they decided, hey, we kind of like it in here and we like these women, so we're going to mate with them. And made you wonder if fallen angels were giant, because that's how they're depicted. How'd that all happen? So, but never mind, that's none of my business. And so when they fell, that means they're stuck in here. They fell. You've fallen and I can't get up. That's what that means. So now you have them in here. These are all entities. These are all energy beings. We don't know how many different manifestations there are that we don't see. Dogs are always barking at something. Cats are always looking at something and running away. So when you think about the construct part from what you just described, okay, if you're God and you're capable of creation, you're either going to be able to create, you called it magic, I'll call it manifestation. You're going to be able to do that. Many people say, here we think we're so big. Who decided what 25,000 miles is? Who decided how far a mile is? It could be a micrometer to God, right?
Yeah.
So this whole entire creation, from a, depth, width, breadth type manifestation, could be that little ball on the neck of the little cat called whatever it was, Orion's belt, in the movie Men in Black. We could, the whole thing could be in there, right? In comparison.
Yeah.
So, you're stuck on 250 million billion gallons of water and 473 trillion rocks and all that. Okay. You're thinking on this macro scale when it all could be micro scale in comparison to God. Okay. So that's one way to look at it. If you really believe that this is all 3D, concrete manifestation. But we also know that every bit of it can be broken down to code. Now, there's one of the things that, let's see, I think I wrote this down, is the is math defining it, or is it defining the math? There's another yin yang way to look at things. Is math a description, or is math the actual creation? Okay. In other words, if you can measure everything in code, ones and zeros, break it down to the most minute level, they didn't just say object, string theory is not just that objects are code. It all is everything: air, water, rocks, sky, us, plants, all of it, everything, the universe, whatever that is, however far the bounds of that goes.
Yeah, so we can get all this. Well, it's already started. Everything, the immorality of the world and the cruelty and the, all the bad stuff that's going on, and yet we know that stuff can be changed.
Look at all the people who are big Trump supporters who say, give Trump a chance. He's going to make America great again. He's going to, round up all the pedophiles, and he's going to, drain the swamp. And he's inspired by God. God put him there. Well, okay. I'm not going to argue that did or didn't happen.
I've seen that reality, the place where we live, I've seen that it can physically be changed. So given that, what I think is going to happen, people are waiting for the end times and the ascension, or whatever you call it. So all that's really going to happen then is there'll be some code changes. You'll wake up one morning and some of your thoughts will be changed. You'll have a benevolent government who just function to provide a service to the people. All the Illuminati never existed. Everybody's kind. And
can you imagine? That's just actually even hilarious to think about, right?
That's how I see it's going to work.
See, I don't, because that's not what end times prophecy says. That's not how it says it's going to work. Everything here gets destroyed. But what does that mean? Destroyed. Does God, if you're the big code writer in the sky, do you literally really need to burn it all to rubble and all that? For who to see? What difference does it make? Right. And so can't you just go poof, you don't exist? Hit the delete key and just delete. Factory default settings, boop, factory default settings. Now we have heaven, because isn't that what Eden was? Is a perfection on earth?
Yeah, so all that, what we're saying is that going to heaven is that God is going to restore factory settings on your body and change your code so that you wake up one day in a different reality. And that will be it. So it's going to be a coding change, isn't it? Going to heaven, you're going to get your code change.
And people wonder, are you going to remember your life? Are you going to remember Earth? Are you going to remember what happened here, and your family and your friends and your dog and your house and all that? Are you going to remember it? No, why would you? What would the purpose of that be, to remember all of that? Well, the only purpose it would be, in my mind, is how could you go and sin no more if you had no memory of what sin was? If you had no memory of pain and hatred and animus and all of these other negative things, how you always have to have some kind of a yin and yang, good and bad, to be able to justify or decide what is good or bad.
All right. I want you to imagine that you're in heaven now. Okay. You're living your life and you're effectively immortal. And over time, sorry, not over time, you'll know everything there is to know, right? And you're up in heaven. And you think, well, I know everything. Life's getting a bit boring here, and
All right.
I
Well,
need
now let's
I need some,
roll
I
the
need some
clock.
excitement in my life.
Let's roll back to the story of the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Adam and Eve lived in perfection in a beautiful garden with animals and birds and flowers and blah blah. Okay, perfection. And they only had one thing, just that one thing. God told them, don't do that. Don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Or actually just call it the tree of knowledge. And why? Why did he not want them to know about good and evil? Can you answer that? What difference would it make for them to know of the knowledge?
Well, I think God wanted him to eat
No,
the
it wasn't
fruit
a trick.
because
No,
God knew that they would eat the fruit of that tree, didn't he? Because
only
God knows
because
it.
he's omnipotent and
So
omnipresent.
he knew before he created Adam and Eve that they were going to sin. He knew.
Well,
He must.
that part I don't know,
Well, he must have known.
because let's go this way. Let's look at it like this. Satan supposedly is the one that corrupted them, enticed them, coerced them. And when Satan was created, he wasn't evil. He was beautiful. He was sat at the right or left hand, I don't remember now, but next to God.
All right. Well,
Was only one of I think two cherubs that were at his level. Okay, he's like a super creature. Beautiful, makes music, literally has musical instruments as part of his structure of his body, and God was pleased with him, and something happened. He cracked. He went to the dark side. Okay.
Yeah.
And
right.
it was because of him that he went down and enticed Adam and Eve. Eve first, then Adam, according to the story, that you don't have to listen to what God says. You're just as as capable of eating of the fruit, knowing the knowledge. It will make you like God. You will know what God knows. You will know what the about the universe, life, the universe, and everything. 42. and and wait, so they did it. Okay.
Right. Right. Okay.
Why?
Right.
Was it boring? Was it boring just hanging out in a beautiful, perfect place and having all the food and friends and
Well,
animals
I don't know.
and beauty?
Must have been. I mean, who turned down perfection? So maybe. But listen. Come on. God created everything, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So
There's nothing that he didn't create. That's what the Bible says.
So God created Satan. So Satan in himself is a simulated being. It has to be if God created him. Why would he create him in any other
Well, we
way?
don't know that. We don't know he's simulated.
All right. So it's possible though, yeah?
It's possible.
So
God could be code. God could be the great big coder made from code himself.
So you're saying it's possible that God created Satan. So Satan's a simulation created by God, and it was God's code that created Satan.
Wait. Gotcha. You keep forgetting about that free will thing. Free will. How can God know every single permutation of action, thought, and whatever in everybody and which way they're going to decide?
Right, you're creating a small sim game yourself on your laptop because you can. You know, you can
Okay.
Those
I'm
sims are
my own sim game. Okay.
They're only going to do what you program them to do. Unless you can give the Sims free will.
Well, I would have to give my Sims free will because it's one of the most valuable things I own as a human is my free will.
All right. So you're in heaven now, first day in heaven, and you've got until, infinity in time. I mean, what do you do? You're in human form. You never age. What are you going to do for the rest of eternity? What does someone in heaven do for
Well,
that?
what is the image in which man is created? Whose image? Whose
God's.
image is God? Is man created? God. What is God? Creator, right? It's his
Yeah.
biggest claim to fame. He's the creator. So, what would you do if you're made in the image of God, the creator? What would you do? Create.
Well, I would learn. I would learn how to play the guitar better and stuff.
Well, there you go. You would create. You would learn. You would adapt. You would create. You would make things that were beautiful or that made your life better. I mean, there's no end to that. Man's never stopped creating, have they? To this moment, right now,
Yeah.
mankind has
Oh,
never stopped creating.
okay. But you're in heaven now, and you've got the same personality.
I'd still be creating. I'd be creating 24/7. I don't even think I'd sleep.
All right. So it's still you, and you're in heaven, and you've created everything. You've been in time terms. You've been there for 10 billion years. Say, okay.
Okay.
You think
There's no time in heaven. That's already got you there.
you're thinking, I need some stress in my life.
No, you wouldn't. No, hell no. No, I'm sorry. No, I don't know about you, dude, but I could go, oh my God, another day without stress. This is so awesome. Okay.
Sarasota in the year 2017 and just relive that for a
Sarasota
while.
sucks. Think about what we just went through here, right?
Yeah.
Mountains of fish, dead, rotting, stinking, washing up on our shores from red tide and whatever else crap they dumped into the water, killing everything in its path, and all washing up on the beach and stinking and rotting. Okay. One of the most beautiful beaches on earth, one of the biggest tourist attractions on earth to come and visit, to relax and enjoy, with every amenity you could ever imagine if you have the money to use it or buy it. And
okay. Anyway, so you're up in heaven now. Your soul's up in heaven. And of course, you've got a whole new set of friends that you had your memory wiped when you came down here. So when you were born, you didn't know anything. So then you meet up with all your friends. And you say, well, how did your 87 years go down on Earth? What did you get up to? And you get your old memory back as to who you was as your soul, and you're in this totally different.
Actually, I think it would be painful to get your old memory back, Lawrence.
Game that you elected to come down here to play this game for a lifetime, a human lifetime, and then you go back. This memory goes. You get your old memory back, and you can you can watch videos of what you did, the highlights. Hey, Laurie, here's your video highlights, VHS, for what you did over the last 87 years, or however long you lived.
Snore.
You see, I remember that. Yeah.
Well, what happens when you remember? What happens to you physiologically when you remember the good things? You smile.
Yeah.
You feel good. Oh, look, I won this award, or I made this friend, or I saved this life, or whatever the thing was. I was in this concert or whatever. And exactly the opposite happens to you when you remember the shitty thing that you did or that happened to you, right?
Yeah.
What emotions manifest? Anger, grief, pain, suffering, unhappiness, I'm mortified, or whatever thing you remember. Okay. I mean, we've all done things we're not proud of. Do I want to take those memories with me? No, not necessarily. Just like I don't want to take the ones of pain and loss and, friends that died, pets that died, any of that stuff. I don't want to take that with me. So, but is it valid to say that life would be better or worse with, better without it. Just to sit here and try to imagine my life without the bad things, without the pain, without the loss or the hurt or anger or any of those things. Because I mean, just like anybody else, I haven't had the worst mountains to climb. I've had a pretty successful life and pretty satisfying, but I could have done without some of it. Yeah, for sure. But when I think of heavenly, the only reason why I can think of it so well or visualize it so well is because it would not include any of that. And it also wouldn't include those drones or zombies you were talking about earlier. They wouldn't be there. There would be what are they called? Non-player characters there. And who knows? Maybe you get to order up your own lifestyle there, or maybe the one that's waiting for you is even better than any one you could have dreamed up on your own. Who knows? Maybe you would actually enjoy playing with the other children when you get there. I never actually liked that very much. I was always alone. I've always been a loner. I've always been an introvert.
Yeah.
I've always avoided masses of people at every opportunity. So why? Because the more people you're around, the more chances that you're going to be around assholes. That's why. There's, probably more nice people than there are assholes, but I don't know why, but I always got more than my fair share of them. So the assholes, I mean. So, okay. Now let's change tracks again for a minute. And what would be the one thing that you could find that would be the end all be all to know for sure that this was not a 100% just catch as catch can biological world? Okay. That what would be the one thing like if you found this thing or learned this thing that as a proof that you could go around and go, see, this is it right here.
I've already seen it, Laurie. The aircraft is enough for me, because I know, I can remember being 2 years old. I can remember.
All right. Now, so hold on. Here's what's interesting about that. And I listened to that with no bias. I have the capacity to turn off my bias as much as any human can. Okay. And the three things that you showed me that you were using as residual proof.
Yeah.
One was from a movie. So we don't know if that was an actual aircraft or if that was a set aircraft. Okay. And the two others were how to draw a plane.
Yeah, but okay? Most people know.
Now, I don't know why they would have somebody draw a plane wrong, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the plane one is just so obvious, it just is. I just know so that was enough for me. The Bible changes was enough for me that could only happen in a simulation. And, the fact that they're actually, that thing about the video telephones. I mean, I know that they weren't around then, and the evidence is there to see. They didn't have it in Star Trek. It was science fiction in 1968, and yet they're telling us we had it in 1964. So the only way they can do that to change all that. But there's also videos of people, from the 1960s in TV films of them, like on news programs of them doing it. But I never saw that when I was growing up. I didn't see anything, and I used to watch Tomorrow's World, science program, all through the 1960s.
Well, that does that doesn't surprise me at all. I'm
You
sure
know,
you were like a science
so
geek all
I'm
the way
100.
back then.
I'm 100%. Biological simulation, and I won't be going back because that's what it is. All I'm trying to work out is, what the time scale is in this construct before, it all gets changed into, the end of
You know
end time.
what? You know what, Lawrence? You and millions of other people. I have never seen such a time or read about such a time as so many people want it to just be over. Now, I wasn't around in biblical days, in the days of Noah, and so I don't have anything to compare it to but my own chronological lifetime when I was born to this day. But I think the ratio of joy to not joy has the not joy has grown exponentially compared to the joy part on an average person's day or life.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when it gets to the point where you have more non-joy than joy, then you're kind of like, I'm not having any fun playing this game anymore. It's like sitting there playing a Monopoly game, and every freaking time you come around the board, you land on one of those big places where you really got to pay a lot of money and you're running out. And you go, damn, I got to, land on community chest or something to get it some good thing. Or, I got to roll these dice better to miss these high rent districts or whatever it is, or go into jail. And in the game of life, on the Monopoly board right now, most people, I would say, except for the wealthy, but I mean, they have all their relative pain too. They lose loved ones. They have problems. Money doesn't buy you joy. Just takes the stress off. That's all. So in comparison to, I'm old enough to say that in comparison to half a lifetime ago for me, I'm not going to say when that was, but let's just cut my life in half and go back to the middle. In comparison to then to now, I can honestly say I had more joy, more joyful times, more happiness, more positive than negative then and now. And I think lots of people feel that way that are at least older. Now, trying to put yourself in the shoes of a millennial or younger, holy cow. I mean, look at the difference that they can never know what living in the era of Andy of Mayberry, or, Leave It to Beaver was actually like. I don't know what shows you had as a kid over in UK that were the equivalent. I mean, we had our old Westerns and we had our, rural shows, Green Acres, all kinds of shows that were Petticoat Junction, that were, it was all about people interacting and a lesson in life and, some funny here and some action there. But at the end of the day, something shitty didn't happen every single day. Today, something shitty happens to everybody every single day.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the best time in your life is your childhood because you're carefree and, you're not worried about anything. And then, life just becomes a bigger barrel of stress as you get older.
Well, that's true, except for look at the people, the people out there who got beaten, abused, whatever as a child. You had shitty parents, got adopted, parents died, whatever, something bad, got abducted. I mean, think of it. If you missed out on all that, you're one lucky son of a bitch.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of it's in the mind anyway, so you can choose whether you let things stress you out or not, or you can be pretty laid back and think, well, I'm just going to deal with it and move on.
I mean, I look at it this way, Yeah, I had kind of some shitty things happen to me as a kid, and at the time, I just lived through it. I just got by, and as time went by, maybe you could call it regression, regression or repression, repressed memories, whatever you want to call it. Maybe that happens, but one thing I am is I'm a survivor. I mean, that's just my makeup. So once shitty things aren't happening to you anymore, like right now, whatever, then you say, I'm not a victim. Nobody's hurting me right now. Nobody's victimizing me right now. So I'm not a victim. And so I'm not going to just keep dredging that up day after day, week after week as an excuse for why I'm, excuse my language, fucked up. Okay. So, um,
Well, tell me, we talked about the upgrades, didn't we?
yes.
You keep dropping these new terms in. Like you're talking about the cut. You're talking about the upgrades to the coding. I'm thinking, oh right, well,
Oh, the
okay, right.
updates.
Some
Updates.
people have had the updates, and some people haven't. Now, do you think that some people, their memories of are they can, like you can go over a computer program and you can just go in and type in and change it. Do you think some people's memories are read only? They can't be changed.
Maybe. But look at it this way. Um, for example, updates. Okay. Let's say you have a Windows PC, whatever your operating system year is, whether it's Windows 7 or 10 or whatever. Okay. Uh, in order for your machine to keep running at its, best, you have to do the updates. You don't have any choice. Okay. So I don't choose to do all the updates. I don't want all that shit in my computer. But at the same time, um, it's going to start running slow and acting up and not performing well if I don't update some of the most current updates.
I see. I don't
But
get
look
that.
at it like this. Not all of the updates come to everybody at the same time. It's actually mechanically impossible, I would say, for the amount of servers out there and all the PCs everywhere and all the different Wi-Fi's and service providers and ISP address, whatever. Okay. For everybody to be updated at the same time.
Those updates, we don't see any benefit from them. I don't. I mean,
I don't. Actually, I only see detriment from them.
I think they just the update so they can spy on us more and
Well,
get more.
of
That's all.
course. But Lawrence, you have to damn well know that if you don't put the updates in there sooner or later,
Oh, they slow it all down. Yeah.
your computer is just going to sit there and act like a dinosaur.
Yeah. It's like giving
Okay.
you a vaccine,
So you don't have any choice. The only way you have a choice is if you have a computer, let's say a laptop or a desktop or something that is designated offline.
Oh yeah,
Never goes online at all. Okay. So no online viruses can come in, no spyware, no nothing can come in because it's never hooked up to online. Now you could run that computer for however long you wanted to, probably without any updates because it's self-contained, right? And as a matter of fact, it probably has its factory default settings. But this means you've never added any applications, any new programs, none of that stuff. Do you remember back in the day when if you wanted a new program, you had to actually go and buy it in a box and load it into your computer? Do you remember this?
Yeah, I was, pre-Windows and stuff like that.
Okay. Now all you do is just go look for the thing, download, boom, done. I got the newest thing. Okay. Well, with that, came some dirt, some dirty shit, something you didn't want. There's something in there. It's just like an omnibus bill in the Congress. There's there's crap in there that you don't want, but in order to get it, you got to go with it. So here's what I'm saying. Not everybody's operating off the same updates, the same software. It's equivalent if you got Mac users and you got PC users. Okay. They act different. They literally operate differently. Plus, those of us who are being watched because we might just be a little too uppity for the things we're looking for and the things we're talking about and the things we're doing, causing a little bit too much rift in the matrix. Okay. They can make it a little bit more difficult on you. Remember me telling you about that new street light that they put up across the street from me that I think is going to be the thing that's going to implement the 5G when they're ready to roll that crap out? From that time that happened, my computer slowed down to nothing. And it's interrupting my Wi-Fi. I got in this room where I am, I have the farthest location from the Wi-Fi that you can have in this house, maybe a few more feet that way. And I never had problems, never. And then suddenly now, can't get on the internet. Wi-Fi's not working. Disconnect. 2 bars instead of 4. Blah, blah. So why'd that happen suddenly? I mean, is it my imagination that street light new street light head got put in, the newfangled one out in a county where I live? No. It's a little bit too many coincidences for me, Lawrence, right? So, is my life harder than other people's because I'm, online truthing all the time? I get messages all the time from people. I mean, we're approaching, I don't know what, 6 million podcast listeners. Not on YouTube. We're lucky if we get a few thousand watches on our YouTube videos. But you take this same video and you download it to audio and you put it up on iTunes, and boy, people listen. I mean, it's like 10,000 a month or 10 on each video. So the point is since that started happening, is my life harder? No, it's not really any harder than anybody else's life, but I notice a difference. I notice my Facebook slows down, or I can't get here, I can't get there. So, I've done my time here. Back to your other question, yeah, I could be ready to go. I don't need him. I'm not packing any bags. I mean, when it's time for the big carpet to roll up and this curtain to be thrown back from the stage, I'm down. I'm with you, because I don't envision. You kind of have this idea. You might be a little bit of an idealist when it comes to, is God going to come in here and just wipe the slate clean and fix some things? Why would you do that? Why would you let it get this bad? It's kind of like, why would you let all the dishes you have in your sink pile up, all the dishes you have in your house pile up dirty, and then now it's day 47 and you need to cook and you got nothing to cook with and nothing to eat on? You got to do all those dishes before you can cook or eat. No.
How do you see changing from one reality to another? How's it going to happen?
I think this reality is, I guess you would call it progressive. It's not going to be regressive. And so it's just going to keep going in the direction that it's going. But I'm going with the most historic document book in the history of the world, the Bible. That prophecy was made hundreds of years ago, even thousands. That has systematically come true over and over and over again. And so I'm kind of banking on it's probably going to keep happening that way. And so prophecy says there's going to come a day, none of us are going to know when it is, because you would change your life if you knew what the day, what the due date was, right?
Well, you can get an indication, because we haven't yet, as far as I know anyway, we haven't got the mark of the beast yet, unless your iPhone is the mark of the beast. So that's got to happen first before you reach further down end times, hasn't it? We need the mark of the beast, and then 3 years apparently.
Well, it's interesting that, the mark of the beast is described as a mark on your hand or on your forehead. And is that going to be a chip or a wearable? I don't know about you, but if all of a sudden everybody started putting chips in their body, I know I got bangs to cover my forehead, but for crying out loud, I'm not letting them put something in my forehead. It would have to go on my hand. And I'm going to have the right to reject it. And that's never happened yet. No, but who's to say in this reality, it hasn't happened yet? It could be implemented tomorrow. You could wake up and go, to turn your computer on and have an alert on there that says, legislation was passed X day, the National Security League, whatever, whoever, you have until midnight 3 days from now to get your thing, your chip, your mark, your card, whatever. And you'd have to decide, those who have read the Bible, who say, is that the mark of the beast? Sure does sound, smell, and look like it. So I'm probably not going to go there. And that's going to be day one of, you can't buy anything. You can't market. And if you haven't already made other plans, you're kind of going to be screwed. Well, now, am I one of those people who's like a prepper who's got, 10 years worth of rice and beans saved up? No, because I don't need to, because I'm in it to win it. Okay. I'm not gonna play those games. Am I going to commit suicide? No, but isn't that what prayer is supposed to be about? Isn't that where you're supposed to ask for help and so on?
But they say you can't buy or sell anything, so how can you buy food?
Yeah, watch me.
What are you going to do?
Watch me. Wait and see what happens.
We've got a plan for that then.
I can black market with the best of them. Believe me.
I suppose if it's still a corrupt world, there'll be ways and means.
Well, okay, so on a positive note, before we end this, we've already discussed what we think simulation, Mandela, flat earth reality, blah, blah, all that's about, okay? We've already discussed how, how we came to these conclusions. If anybody doesn't know our natural progression from, when did we start this? 2016? 2015?
2015, September.
2015. Okay. If anybody doesn't know our natural progression from 2015 to now, like 3 years, hello.
Seems a
they
lot
can
long.
go back. They can go back and they can see what we used to think and what we used to believe. And as we went along, they can see where we said, no, it's not that. And if we misled anyone, which we tried very hard not to do, if you remember correctly, we never said, we were certain of anything, except we did say, this is what we think. And if you can prove it wrong, come ahead, bring it. And you know what? Can you remember Nobody ever did. There was this
Yeah.
one guy who came forward with this, Lori and Lawrence and their diamond thing are for shit. So, and here's my debunking video, but it was just hogwash. It was just a waste of air. So that much we were confident about. We were confident about, it's not a globe. And then we were confident it's not this round circle pie pan. And then we were confident that it's not just this square or this diamond, unless there's Pac-Man. And then we were confident about that because there's no other way to explain it than that's where we went. Okay. And once we went there, it was like simulation was already on the table. We had already talked about it. I know I did, at least 2 years ago, and then never said a whole lot more about it. And then there were a few people who shall remain nameless, one of which used to be on this channel now and then for a while, who went with this theory, but in a totally different way kind of than what we're thinking. And because we didn't automatically go there, we were shills. So we took our time arriving at these conclusions. And it was not driven by fad, trend, or fancy. It was driven by process of elimination and logical conclusion based on observation, the blah, blah, scientific method, all that stuff. Okay. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Supernatural has no scientific explanation. Okay. The laws of physics and mankind and science do not apply to the supernatural. No one's ever been able to actually, everybody's got theories, but has anybody ever put out a theory that you've ever read, Lawrence, that how ghosts manifest?
They're saying it's like energy trapped in the fabric of
It's
the
an
earth.
energy signature. Mm-hmm. Okay. You know what I'm saying? That's not any more scientific. What do you call it? Testable, repeatable, observable law.
Can't make an appointment to go and see these ghosts at a certain time. Some people see them, some people don't. But it's the same with like dogs and cats. They see things that we don't. So
right.
Maybe it's
well,
if you've got you'll see it, and if you haven't, you won't.
Yeah, are they seeing energy signatures that we're not seeing? Can we only see in so many hertz or so many rads or so many whatever? Okay, so this is where we are now, and there's no somebody Lawrence even said, why are we going to change the name? No, this is Flat Earth Conspiracy. It was a conspiracy. We investigated it. We found it to be a psyop hoax, at least the part that was what we call mainstream flat earth. And there's certainly plenty of people stuck there. And when I say the word stuck, am I being high and mighty? Nope. They just are not interested in looking any further. Are they, Lawrence? They're not interested in anybody else's theories. They have found adequate, and I'm going to put that in quotes, adequate explanations for how things work on that circle pie pan with the snow globe over the top with the sun and moon going around in circles, chasing each other like rabbit and the hare.
Yeah, I mean, the community is as busy as ever because I came out of every group apart from Flat Earth Conspiracy page, Facebook page, but I just joined all of them just to see what was going on, and it's like history repeating themselves, and there's all the newbies coming through, going through all the same.
Oh yeah, it's an absolute feedback loop.
And then meme after meme after meme after meme, but it's going absolutely nowhere.
Nowhere. Well, they got nowhere to go. Where do you go when you're going in circles?
You can't go any further with a simulation.
You can't go any further than the size of the circle that you're in. right?
Yeah.
So it's a perfect feedback loop, putting people under in on a pizza pan with, you know, the world, the stars and crap going like this with the dome over the top of it, or similarly concave, fixed. Only now we live on the inside of the ball instead of the outside. Okay.
With the dome, yeah.
And of course, there's the same thing. Oh, wait, where's the curvature? Because if we're on the inside of the dome, can only be, or inside of the ball, it can only be 25,000 feet around inside there. So shouldn't I be able to look up? No, we have an excuse for that. The heaven's in the center. It's like a mirror. You can't see, you only can see back on yourself. You can't see to the other side of the inside of the. I mean, I could go on this for a while. So I'm not going to, because I've already investigated it. I've already found the flaws, and I'm not interested in looking at it anymore. That's another feedback loop. So my suggestion to anyone is observe the world from the perspective of you live in a simulation. You and what I, you know, gotta hate that word, because we have to, it's like we have to use it, because otherwise we'd have to make up our own word. And my word would be construct. Okay. And that the world is code, and that everything we are, we know, and we do is code. And where does free will come in? Just like it comes in with Watson with Jeopardy, or Big Blue. What was this? The Big Blue playing chess. You're going to have to make decisions. You're going to have to make moves, and you're going to have to decide what they are. That's free will. But it's also free will to decide who do you serve? Do you serve the creator God, or do you serve the matrix? And most of your life, whether you knew it or not, you were serving the matrix. And unless you're serving God, you are serving the matrix, because it's like the sub matrix that takes over inside the matrix. They have taken over. It isn't when are they going to take over? They already have. They already did millennia ago. Okay. And so, ouch. And so, the best way to survive the matrix is to get as far from it. And I'm not talking about the construct matrix. I'm talking about the sub matrix. Get as far from it, as unconnected to it as you possibly can. And because otherwise, the more connected to it you are, the more control it has, both over your decision making, your belief system, your memories, all of that. If you had never seen changes in planes on the internet, Lawrence, or walked into an airport and seen them in real time, either way, how would you have known what that they were even changed? Until you go and get on a plane and look at a new plane, go, wait a minute. The engines were always under the wings, and now they're in front of the wings. When did that happen? Is this a new plane? No, it's the same model you've been flying back and forth from here to there.
Until I got into Mandela recently, I just thought it was an upgrade. What I didn't know was that the new design of engine has been backdated since the planes were first manufactured, and obviously that is the clue that I knew that didn't happen. So that, you know, the planes has to be changed supernaturally, and that's it. So it's 100% for the simulation.
Okay, but and you use the word supernaturally there, but what you mean is inside the construct,
yeah,
it's changed.
Yeah.
Okay, so the word changed should be, you know, the simpler the better. What was that quote that you just put up on screen a little while ago?
I'll tell
About the simpler the better. Let's read that going out.
He says the majority believes that everything hard to comprehend must be very profound. this is incorrect. What is hard to understand is what is immature, unclear, and often false. The highest wisdom is simple and passes through the brain directly into the heart. And that's by Victor Schauberger. If you haven't looked into his stuff, there's lots of videos about him, and there's PDFs you can learn about all the things that he's invented and stuff. This guy was he was a real genius. He's not one that's been manufactured for us. So yeah,
Right.
check out Victor Schauberger.
Victor Schauberger.
I think the truth is it should be easy to understand. If it is complex, then it's, and he says,
why do you think the submatrix has made everything as complex as it possibly can, with language, legalese, science terms, medical terms, pharmaceutical terms? I mean, nobody can no layperson can understand all of that stuff. I mean, you could pick one maybe and become pretty adept at it. But when you add in every layer of every part of the matrix that controls you, you would spend every moment of every day trying to learn all of it. And I don't think you still could. Nobody, not very many people have enough photographic memory that they could just look at something and memorize it and keep it in there. But anything you get in snagged by the matrix, whether it's you got a speeding ticket, you're getting a divorce, anything you get mixed up with the law, the legal system, it's going to be ongoing for like a whole long time. And you're going to have either to pay out the wazoo for legal advice and legal representation, or you're going to spend the rest of the next 4 years learning everything you have to learn about fighting whatever it is they got you on. And licenses, penalties, permission, rules, regulations. I mean, it is hard. It's really hard. And I look at it every day like this. I'm a pretty smart cookie. I can figure out a whole lot of things. And I'm probably a little quicker, not maybe smarter or wiser or whatever, but I'm a little quicker than the average Joe. I have a hard time manipulating inside this matrix, and I can't even imagine what it would be like if you weren't very smart, or you weren't very wise, or you were bullheaded and you wouldn't listen to anybody. It has to be mind numbing how hard it would be to manage.
Yeah, it's and they are making things harder. I mean, on eBay, for example, they keep switching all the screens around, and the navigation is just a complete nightmare. It's like they've done it on purpose.
Well, they're doing it on everything, right, Lawrence? I mean, everywhere. Facebook changes every single thing you do.
Anything you go online now, you're having to press these buttons to proceed further. Giving them permission to give you adverts and this and that.
Cookies and who knows what all.
Right, you need to upgrade your security. We want to know what your mobile phone number is. Log in and log out. They're asking you for it. I think.
Well, on Facebook, look at all the people who
have no mobile phone. What are you going to do about it?
I know. Look at all the people who have lost. Let's say maybe their name was Sarah Sue Jones. Okay. And let's say Sarah Sue wants to make her Facebook as just Sarah Sue. She doesn't need the Jones. Okay. So Sarah Sue puts her name up there. Well, somebody comes along, some butthead. There's no such thing. How come she gets to have Sarah Sue and she doesn't have her last name on there? I'm going to report this. Okay. Or the random bots come through and go, like those things in the Matrix that are looking for the Sarah Sue who doesn't have her proper name on there. And they, hit the report button. And pretty soon, Sarah Sue is either going to have to pony up her driver's license or her state identification or social security number or something in order to keep her stupid Facebook account as Sarah Sue, when there's fake accounts all over the place, fake accounts by Facebook and the
Yeah.
CIA and the FBI and every other NSA and every other, group. Every local police department has false Facebook pages, personas, so that they can go around and watch look at the people in their town. My Facebook has been public posts for I can't even tell you how many years, as long as it's been available to be public. I just automatically, it's public. I don't care who sees it. I don't care, because the only way I'm going to actually get the information out there is for random people to come along and see it, right? Not just these few little friends. And so, but in having done so, I've opened myself up to the scrutiny of all the agencies everywhere. So I don't care anymore. I don't care. It's all simulation anyway. The submatrix isn't, what is it going to do to me? Put me in submatrix jail? Okay, well, then I'll figure out how to manifest out of that, or in it, manage, whatever. Don't care. I mean, I don't care. I'm not going to be here forever. That's what's really awesome. I'm not going to be here forever. So, if the next layer is not better than this, then I'll coast through that one too, whatever it is. And that's how I'm going to learn to play the game from now on. But one thing I'm not going to worry about for sure is what anybody thinks about what Lawrence and I talk about. Because you know what? We made up our minds 3 years ago. We're just going to get on here and chat. We're going to put out our ideas and our conclusions and our research, and we can't be bothered with whether you want to come online and come on the website and spend your time sending us a message. You wish I would shut up, or you wish Lawrence would, that crazy old guy would, stop talking, or whatever, we're insane. That can't even tell you how many of those we've gotten. You two are insane. Really? Okay, that's cool. Why are you listening? Why are you spending your energy to go seek out the contact information to send a message so that make sure we get it? Okay, is that changing anything? Do you feel better now? And that's how I feel about that. So thanks to those who do listen and send positive, feedback, and also send some damn good ideas and extra thoughts and information based on what we say. You have something similar or something to add rather than subtract. And we're just going to keep going forward. And you know what? If it turns out at the end of the day that we are insane, how would we know it? Right, Lawrence?
Well, it was simulated insane, isn't it?
We were simulated insane. How would we know it? How would we know any different?
Where are we actually going? Let's say you're having a dream, and there's people in dreams, obviously, that you've never met before, but they're in your dreams, and you might see them in your dreams more than once or repeatedly. Where is that? Is that outside the construct of time? Is it another? What is it?
What is the dreamscape?
Where are you going when you dream? Where is your?
Well, let me answer that, because you know what, I've actually thought about that. I'm not conscious when I'm dreaming, and I very rarely remember my dreams. Actually, I used to back in the day. I used to wake up and go, "Man, that was a great dream. I'm going to try to go back to sleep and go back in that dream." And sometimes I could, and sometimes I would have very lucid dreams where I would wake up and I was married before, and I had this completely lucid dream that my husband was having an affair, and I was watching. I mean, I was in the movie, I was going and looking in the window and seeing and catching him. And I woke up, I was so damn mad. I actually hit him. I mean, I was like, "You cheating son of a bitch." And he's like, What are you talking about?" It took me all day all day to get past the anger and keep talking myself down from the ledge that was a dream, that didn't actually happen. That's not real. Okay. No matter what he said, he just kind of stayed away all day. Like, wow, that was an intense dream. And so in dreamscape is it's kind of like you don't shut your computer down when you go to bed. Okay. Let's say you leave it running in sleep mode. It's not supposed to actually be doing anything. But you know what? You can get up tomorrow and you can find out that because it was in sleep mode and it's probably still connected to the Wi-Fi, some crap came in there, some updates or some download thing or something happened inside while it was supposed to be sleeping. So how is that dreamscape any different than what we're going through? Because we don't know what provokes or invokes our dreams. I mean, have you ever dreamed about stuff that you would never dream about?
Yeah, well, I used to dream a lot about fly. I could fly, you know. I haven't been flying recently, but I could always fly in my dreams. Nobody else could, but I could fly and take people. You know, they could.
I mean, are you flying in an airplane or are you flying?
I could fly myself, and I could walk up like Spider-Man. I could walk across the top of the ceiling and all sorts.
Okay, so you were defying the construct of the Matrix.
Week in, week out, you know, all this flying stuff, which was freaky. I mean, it's written into our code that we have to sleep because you can't not sleep. We have to sleep.
Well, why do you think we have to?
I don't know, but we have to. You know, you just get so tired that you just fall. It's like a drug. The body gets filled with some drug that it's a narcotic that makes you sleep. You have to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, and that literally does happen. Actually, your brain starts. I think doesn't it start to emit some?
But a machine would
melatonin or something.
If your computer doesn't need to sleep at all, it can go 24/7. You know,
oh, sure, it's a machine.
Wear down some part breaks or something. But we, as machines, you know, we're code. We've got to stop and sleep for a third of our lives. Seems a bit of a waste, doesn't it?
Well, it kind of does, but it also makes you wonder, could a biological body maintain without rest, you know, without shutting down the activity so that, you know, repairs can be made while you're sleeping?
I think maybe the reason they make us sleep is so they can update our code.
Probably. I mean, that's the easier answer. Also, if everyone on Earth was awake at the same time, always awake, whether they were living on the daylight section or the nighttime section. You like the way I did that? Daylight section, nighttime section. Maybe, you know, we'd have more conflicts and more wars, and maybe everybody can't be awake at the same time and be taking up space other than bed space. I mean, think about the whole idea of 99% of the homes in the world give up a third of their space for bedrooms that aren't used any other part of the day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think of the square footage wasted, but, you know, it's not really not because it has your bed in it. But think of all the square footage of all the homes on Earth dedicated to the sleeping process. So,
and it's weird because, you know, it's not only us that dream. Dogs dream. So I see my dog dreaming sometimes, and he's running and he's dreaming. He's squeaky. His voice is squeaking away, and
he's barking.
You know, he's gone somewhere in a dream somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Maybe wouldn't it be
really cool to see what a dog's you know,
Yeah,
get a little movie of what a dog's dreaming. I
yeah.
mean, it could be pretty cool. I mean, they could be chasing bandits, and it's not just a squirrel or a cat or something. But they're not the only things that dream. Almost every animal that I've ever watched as either a pet or, domesticated animal, whatever, I've watched all of them at one point dream. Horses, cows, chickens, uh, geese, mice, you don't you name it. They all will make the REM thing, and the jerking and the maybe making a couple of squeaky noises and body movements and so on. So all the animals dream, sleep. All the I truly believe plants sleep because they're in darkness. As a matter of fact, that street light that I was talking about, this new LED intensely bright street light they just put in across from my house. Uh, do you know that my solar lights that I have out in the yard, those little path lights you stick in the ground that have little solars on the top that charge in the
Oh,
day,
yeah.
they won't come on anymore. That's how bright it is. I
Right.
mean, they're charged up. As soon as the dusk starts to happen, they come on, but as soon as that street light happens, they go off. Now, what is that doing to all my plants?
They should be
I mean,
growing more.
they don't have even remotely dark anymore compared to the old street light that I had.
They might grow quicker.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's harmful to have. I mean, LED is like blue light, right? It's not yellow light. So maybe, we'll see. I'll certainly let you know 6 months from now when my plants are either growing more or looking
So,
kind of peaked.
for those of you who think that the simulation theory is a load of rubbish, um, what do you think you're doing when you're dreaming? You know that's not real, don't you? It's a simulation.
Yeah, it is
You
a
know,
simulation.
doing things in your dream that you're while you're actually lying in bed. But it's a simulation, isn't it? And you can't
And I,
argue with it. So simulation exists in your dreams. Why can't it exist outside your dreams?
yeah, that's a good one. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I can't describe to you that dream I had where my ex-husband now cheated on me in the dream, and I knew the woman that he was cheating with, and I was like, the what do you call it? Like the unseen observer, okay? And I don't think I could have I probably would have been more rational angry if I'd seen it with my own eyes and in real time, in real life, than I was coming out of that dream. I mean, I was like as angry as if it actually happened, and hurt and mad and all that stuff, all the things that would happen to you if you caught your spouse cheating. Um, unless of course you have an open marriage, and then that's a whole different thing. But I didn't, so it wasn't. It was as real as if it actually happened in real life. And so I put on a damn good simulation. Is all I can tell you. I mean, I could have made that movie, right?
Well,
Um,
I don't know who creates your dreams. I mean, when you're unconscious, somebody somewhere decides, well, I'm going to send Laurie a dream tonight. What should we send her tonight? You know what?
well,
So
and of all the dreams they could have sent Lawrence, why would they send that? Because I'm not a jealous person, and I'm not an untrusting and suspect everybody of or anybody of cheating.
I don't,
I didn't
I don't,
have any indications that that he was cheating. You know, there was nothing leading up to that where it's, wonder if he's cheating. Nobody told me he might be nothing. There was nothing like that. It just came out of the blue. Boom,
yeah.
vivid dream. He's cheating, and like, why would I dream that? So there has to be either somebody loaded that dream. Here's the dream you're having tonight, sissy. And I got loaded that dream, or that was a premonition type dream, maybe this is something you ought to think about. Maybe he might be thinking about cheating, or he is cheating. Load the vivid dream, but it was just like in the Matrix, where it was like,
Yeah.
load the fight program, or the holodeck on Star Trek. Load this program. And as a matter of fact, I even actually scratched myself on a post in this dream, chasing around, looking, through windows and stuff. And when I woke up, I looked at my hand to see if I had a scratch on it. That was one of the ways that I knew that that was a dream versus reality, was that there was no scratch there.
Yeah.
If there would have been a scratch there, that some bitch had been in divorce court, end of day. But
Yeah.
it wasn't.
And do you ever have those dreams where you're just falling down somewhere and then you wake up, you're falling down off?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you have the literal feeling of falling. I mean, you wake up like, oh my God, I'm glad I caught myself. I was falling.
Yeah.
I was like really falling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, have you ever had that before, where, let's say you get a little too close to the edge of the bed while you're sleeping, and you roll over and you catch yourself like, crap, I almost fell out of bed. Okay.
Yeah.
That much of a shocking feeling of falling. So,
Well,
I don't know, but that was a good, I'm going to think about that one more, is the fact that aren't our dreams sort of our mind's kind of like a computer. It's funny that, it's okay when science says stuff like this, scientists, your brain is like a computer, and people just lap it up and go, God, yeah, that's right. But when somebody like us, who don't have a sheepskin or, letters behind our name, say the same thing. Oh God, look at these two. Are they stupid or crazy or what? Yeah, you're right. We're insane.
I've never been to a movie ever and sat through it all. I always fall asleep, and I cannot watch the TV for more than about an hour. I will fall asleep, and I'll often fall asleep watching the TV. Not that I watch it very often, but I've got a cup in my hand and I've got a coffee or something. I'll fall asleep with this cup of coffee in my hand, and then I'll suddenly wake up, and the shock of waking me up, I took it all up. That's what happens. I mean,
Well, and you know what? That kind of sleeping is where, I mean, literally your physical body just shuts down and is just, I've woke myself up asleep with a book I'm laying in my bed, my head propped up on the pillow, reading a book, and the book had fall over and slap me in the face, and I wake up and I'm thinking, how long was I sleeping before the muscles weakened enough to fall over. And so in wrapping this up, hopefully we've given people some things to think about. If you think we're crazy, then don't follow what we're thinking. Just slink off into the sunset and forget about us. If we did give you something to think about, or if you have something to add, please put it in the comments. And if you don't want to put it in the comments, then you can private message me and Lawrence, because I'll pass it on to him at go to the contact on flatearthconspiracy.com. There's a contact section. Yes, you'll probably have to give us your email, but you know what? But it's only to write you back. We don't collect emails. We don't make money. We don't care about any of that. We don't sell lists. And but if you have some amazing thoughts that you'd like to add that we may have triggered, please send them on, and we'll talk about it next time.
Let me ask a quick one. If you go and see doctors, anybody, I don't do doctors,
I don't do doctors.
I'll find some, natural remedy. But if anybody does go and see a doctor, and you sat in the doctor's room, just ask him to show you on your body, ask him to tell you where the kidneys are, and post a comment on this YouTube as to where your doctor said they were.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, but have them not just tell you, have them either show you, because a lot of them have one of those anatomical body things, or have them poke
Your
them.
doctor tells you your kidneys are half under your ribs, then then they've been moved because they
They've
were.
been moved.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you what, if you've ever had not a bladder infection, a kidney infection, where it actually backs up from your bladder into your kidneys,
Yeah.
and I mean, to the point where you probably don't have any choice but to go on antibiotics and be hospitalized because you're in such intense pain. And let me tell you this. I went in to the emergency room for a kidney infection because it was so bad and came on so fast. And when I was taken into the examination room, the nurse practitioner person, not the doctor, but the nurse came in first and tell what do what is happening? What do you got? And da da da. And she started pushing on my kidneys. Okay. I'm laying on the gurney thing on my face down, which is all I could do to get on there because it's so painful. And she starts pushing on my kidneys, and they are right above the back of your hip bones, okay? In your lower back, where if you had such a thing as a spare tire down
Yeah.
around there, that's exactly where they are, okay?
That's right.
And
That's where they were.
and she started pressing on him, and I mean, it was crying painful, and I'm not a crier. And I mean, I said, stop doing that. You're killing me. And that's where your kidneys were. So if they're not still there, then they've moved. And if they've moved, then everybody's have moved. I mean, you can't have humans walking around with some humans have kidneys in this place and some humans have kidneys in that place. Because it'd be a little tricky when you went to the hospital. Let's see, we have a kidney problem here. Where are we going to cut?
Yeah, what model of human is this we've got? If they have the upgrade or not?
This must be an alien, or a Cro-Magnon. Yeah, this must be the missing link, Cro-Magnon person or whatever. And so Lawrence and I now we can both testify where the kidneys were. Plus, look at fighters, okay? Professional boxing, one of the rules is you don't hit people below the belt. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
And that's for the groin area, obviously. But where's the belt? The belt is where the kidneys are. Right, Lawrence?
Yeah.
Isn't that where they wear the belt? To protect the kidneys. What else for?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm going to have to go and I'm a big boxing fan. I'm going to have to go and investigate the boxing belt, the history of where it's worn, why it's worn, who invented it. I'm going to have to do all that now, see, because that's the way my mind works.
You might not have changed that yet.
They may not have changed that, but then what the hell would it be there for? What would that padded belt be there for?
Well, they sometimes think this out. So, for a quick example, is for the aircraft, and the reason why the aircraft, the engines are where they are now, is because it enables the plane to be lower, so the baggage handlers can reach the place where there's a big deal about it. That's why they were made lower. It was done. They redesigned the engine for the baggage handlers.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Sure. Whatever. That's when I say that. Sure. Right. Whatever. That's like the pockets of gravity for the screw on the ISS fall into the ground. Pockets of gravity. That's all we need. We only need pockets of gravity, because all the rest of the time in all the rest of the spaceship, there's no gravity and everything flies around, and everybody has to be careful and not, run into things and so on and so forth. But every once in a while we get a pocket of gravity, just like that hole that showed up in the ISS a couple months ago they said a micro meteor or a micro piece of space junk came through the hull of the ISS, No, then it turns out, no, it wasn't the ISS. It was the shuttle attached to the ISS. Oh, no, actually, after people like me went online and said, pardon me, excuse me, but that is not a meteor hole. That was made by a drill. Okay. We can literally see the drill marks. And not only that, but we can see the little skippy places where when you try to drill into metal, if you don't get get your bit in there just right to get a bite the first time, it'll go and skip and, make marks, right?
Yeah.
And then there they were. Oh, but this micrometeorite or piece of space junk happened to just like come through here and then it skip. And, really, you're not going to sell that, not to people like us, not to people who already know what a drill bit looks like hitting metal and skipping. So what did they do? Very next day, yeah, it turns out it was a drill. And we don't know when it happened. It probably was sabotage. So let's spin it into a story that can totally make people forget about a micrometeor, which is kind of, but so what? But sabotage, do we know who it was? Was it the Russians themselves trying to, or was it who did that? And then suddenly, as with everything, some new story hits the press tomorrow and gone. Nobody's going to talk about that one anymore. That's things we don't talk about because we spun that already. And so this is how the matrix works, is spin and spin and spin, and then suddenly forget, and then suddenly you go back and look at something that you knew about before, and it's not like that at all anymore. There's people questioning the entire World War II as being fake. Did you know this? Entire World War II, people were faking deaths and the invasion of Normandy Beach, and on and on and on and on. It's all this fakery and hoaxery were going on. Bombs, plane parts are all littered all over the airport, and they say, this was Allied bombs. And you look and you go, well, I see some plane parts, but where's the bomb holes?
Yeah,
where's the pits in the ground where the bombs landed? Did you strategically strike the planes and the whole bomb just dissipated within blowing up the plane and there's no bomb holes? Well, that's about as great as the one about the no landing crater on the moon from the setting down and taking off of the whatever that bag of curtain rods and tinfoil was, you called it.
It seems that all of it was.
We got to get off. We got to finish this. So we'll possibly, maybe we'll try to do a part 3 tomorrow, and then we can take a break for a little while and be caught up on everything. But if we feel like we kind of touched on what we know right now, then we won't. So thank you all that listen, especially if you got this far through part 2. And again, a big shout out and love to the podcast listening audience, because we did some screen shares tonight, and we're sorry you can't see those, but you're always welcome to go to the YouTube channel and skip around and try to find it. Any last words, Lawrence?
Yeah, just if you want to check out the World War II hoax, just type in World War II hoax Dave Johnson, and you can see for yourself that they've got mannequins and actors and people's bodies still moving when they're supposed to be dead. There's a plane that allegedly crashed onto an aircraft carrier, and all it was, they got a catapult, and it was on a stick. You can see the stick. Everything's just frigging acting, and he's like he says, if you tell me that a relative of yours was in the war and they had a rifle and they shot somebody, I'm telling you that he's a liar. Now, I can say from my own family, I haven't got any family members who, grandfathers, uncles, whatever, not one was killed in any war ever, of all my own family tree. And so check out your own,
I've
few
checked
people
out my own,
like
and
it.
I've had quite a few members in service, but to my recollection, I don't have any that died uh,
Braving.
directly in any of the wars. And I did have a grandfather who did his 25 years, retired lieutenant colonel, did Korea and let's see another, I'll think of it, but he was in there for 25 years and was stationed in the Philippines and so on and so on. He was kind of a little shell shocked war, but he was a prisoner of war for a while. So I think some of the people who look into this need to look at it from the gathered evidence perspective and entertain the evidence that people are finding of fakery. And it's possible that, they used to put those newsreels up every week at the movies
Cafe
back in the
News.
day,
Yeah.
and tell people back at home what was going on with the war. And so perhaps there was some fakery with regards to that, and that might be being somewhat misinterpreted. So rather than get angry and think that, oh my God, now they're questioning World War II, like they question 9/11 and they question Sandy Hook and every other thing. Take a look at the evidence before you shut down, and just see, because it's just evidence. It's just people's opinion. It can't hurt you. It can't hurt you. You're not gonna like get
Yeah.
insane or anything
If the
like
war was
like
real,
us.
if it was a real war, they wouldn't need to fake anything. They would just film it as it was. But the fact that there's proof that they have fake stuff leads you
Well,
to conclude.
some of that fake stuff looked pretty horrific, Lawrence. I mean, if you were trying to sanitize it a little bit by showing some dead bodies via using mannequins, that's one thing. But I mean, one guy, his leg was not just a compound fracture, it was like bent over in a completely like a chicken bone kind of way. Didn't work. So,
Yeah, lights, cameras, action. That's what it
yeah,
was.
well, we all know, that they did that in what they call Bollywood, and in the Middle East, they've done it as recently as the gas sarin gas attacks on people and so on. So there's always been some fakery, but it's interesting to look at this information. Just it's no different than looking at Holocaust information or anything else. It doesn't hurt you to look. Like, think of it
Yeah.
as window shopping, and you're not going to buy. Okay,
Yeah.
so anyway, all right,
Right.
toodaloo. Nice to
Yeah.
spend a few hours with you and catch up, and
Yeah.
keep looking into the simulation, the hoaxes, and the changes, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah. And if you've got any gills at the top of your ears, let us know, because apparently it's 1 in 20 have now got these little tiny holes at the top of their ears.
Oh no, you're killing me. Okay, I'll look into
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Cheers.
Talk to you later.
Okay.